Alright guys, CH with CHandTY Audits here. This is the Q&A part of the interview from last night. We had a prosecutor come on and get owned, and then we had someone who I suspect is a big name in the freedom movement. Let me know in the comments who you think it is. Anyways, enjoy.
CHandTY, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Oh, wow, guys. Nick, I love you, man, but this has been the Nick versus CH show. This was supposed to be the Troll versus CH show. I get what you're
not
doing,
versus,
but...
interview.
Yeah, but I mean, that's great, whatever. But there's a million things that I wanted to ask him. So I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to make it quick. So a couple points I wanted to make. Number one, anarchy was tried. The entire history of the human race before government was invented, which is why government was invented, is because anarchy doesn't work. Exactly. Number two.
That's a good point.
How did we get here if anarchy didn't work?
Because they invented government. So because it didn't work.
No, you're just telling me that we survived for what, 1 year, and then we realized that we were all going to die if it was anarchy, so we just created government.
You want to get real? It was when farming was invented. When people finally realized that you could actually put a seed in the ground and turn it into food on purpose, as opposed to being a nomad looking for food, then you had to stay to take care of your crops. And then somebody else said, hey, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat your crops that you just spent the last 5 years trying to take care of your family growing. And they said, no, I'm not going to let you just take it. And guess what?
Yeah, well, during the Ice Age in Asia and in Europe, people had to group together to survive those times. So that there was technically government before farming was around, because people weren't planting seeds in the Ice Age, I can assure you. But there was certainly a leader, there was a patriarchy, and people conformed to it in order to survive. That's why it's so ingrained in our genetics. It's almost an instinct to have a government. But just because it's an instinct doesn't mean it wouldn't work, if we wouldn't survive without it, or we wouldn't prosper without it. That's like saying that, I don't even know what that's like. It's like saying if birds don't, fly south during the winter,
I just want to be very...
Nick, come on. Give Hezekiah the time.
No, Hezekiah. No. I'm not arguing. I just want to make one point. Can I at least just point out very quickly when a fact is wrong? We did have farming during the Ice Ages. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Okay, well, all right, anyway, fair enough. I'm just saying we also had places where they weren't, so...
We so still the next point I wanted to make, and it's related to this, okay, and it comes from it as well. So earlier you were saying that people aren't naturally violent, so if there was no government, we wouldn't all just be violent with each other. But our natural instinct is for survival. And if I could survive by going to your house and taking your stuff because you got more than me, if there's nothing there to stop me, well, right now cops aren't stopping people. Yeah, not every
trust me, you wouldn't survive.
Okay, but I won't go after you. I'll go after the old lady across the street. I'll go after somebody that's not going to
Well, then you're a scumbag, and I've got nothing else to say to you.
Yeah, exactly.
There are scumbags.
That's the point. There are scumbags. Just because you might not be one.
And they do it now. They do it while government exists. Exactly. What about not having government makes it more frequent or less frequent?
It would make it more frequent.
There's something.
How do you know that?
Look at the world. Look at the...
Go to any war zone, we've seen it. Man? Go to any war zone.
What about the world? I live in a place where there's there's maybe one domestic violence call every week.
Again,
okay, well maybe the place where
fact check.
You need to come to the real world. That's the thing. You need to.
I'm living in the real world. Trust me. Yeah.
No, and just to fact check, there are real world examples of that. Go to any war zone in Africa, even in the Middle East, even Ukraine. The minute that authority starts to fall, anarchy takes over, and it becomes survival of the fittest.
People don't go to war. Governments go to war.
Let me say,
because there are a couple more points I wanted to make, and I know time's going to be limited. So here's the other thing I wanted to ask, and this is way more pointed to the subject of where we are and why we're here right now with you. So the government is doing all of these things to stop you from your free speech and from going and doing these videos and blah, blah, blah. Why do you have a YouTube channel? How do the videos you make exist if they're stopping you? If they stopped you, how could you have the video to post? How could you say the things you say if they're stopping you from speaking? How can you film the things you're filming if they're stopping you from filming? You have the videos. You do talk. So what's the problem?
YouTube isn't a government agency, and just because they don't stop me doesn't mean they don't try.
What is trying? That's like the whole, well, a cop asked me for ID, so he's violating my rights. Because he asked you a question? Asking a question is a violation of your rights?
Well, he's politely asking to violate my rights, yeah.
No, that's your interpretation of a simple question. So he doesn't have the right
Oh,
to
okay.
Because
I've never gone up to somebody. I'm a normal person. I don't go up to random people and ask them for ID. I only go up to the weirdos who also ask people for ID, like cops. But the thing is, man, is like I just think that the whole premise of your guys' idea is you misunderstand human nature. I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing a whole lot of projecting right now. Like, well, if it was this way, I'd use violence, so I assume everyone else would. You guys wouldn't last very long in the world where there's nobody there.
All right, 1 minute.
Wait a minute. I have to.
Yeah, 1 minute left.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
letting
last
you know.
question, please.
All right. He just said that, like, the violence thing, and then that's us projecting, and that he doesn't love violence, but he cannot even begin to understand how we don't get the pleasure of choking a woman out during sex. How pleasurable that is. But he's nonviolent.
It's a consensual thing, man. You know, when a girl looks at me and says, "Please choke the shit out of me, Daddy," I just can't help myself. I get right in there.
I don't want to.
Why you little?
With Craig, but I don't want to agree with Craig. But yeah, it's actually common as a type.
No, I know it's a thing. I'm just saying, if he wants to talk about violence, like, well, I mean,
there's no violence in it. I don't want to agree with Craig on anything, but there's no violence in it. 0%.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Exactly. If it happened. Okay, Hezekiah, thank you for coming on.
Hezekiah, thank you for being here, man. And at a later time, we're going to invite Craig again because there's so much to unbox. There's so much to talk about. And
yeah, I've got at least 20 more questions, but I know there's no time, so.
Yeah, there's a few people backstage. If we have more time, you can hop back in. So thank you for coming.
No problem.
Thank you. All right, now we have the smoking. I just want to advise, after Smoking Auditor is Paul Carroll and Broken System. You had plenty of airtime last time, but we will bring you in if we have time. All right, how's it going, Smoking Auditor?
I'm doing all right. I'm just sitting here enjoying this debate. But I just want to say this much. Anarchy eventually evolves into a government. The problem with our current government is it's no longer the way it was. It will always slowly evolve into overreaching. That's where our government has a problem now, is it's became so big it's starting to overreach into every area of our society. You know, each state is supposed to be almost its own independent country. And federal government is trying to make it, no. You can't have your own laws. You have to do it this way. You guys were trying to use slavery earlier. Well, let's use a more modern thing going on right now. They're trying to abolish abortion in certain states. Well, that's up to that state. That's up to those people. Every law should be voted on every, about 15 or 20 years. Government has to be recreated every generation or else it does not work. If you try to keep the same government every generation, eventually 3-4 generations down the line, the people that became in charge will be corrupt, and the people that aren't in the government and are watching it, they're going to want it changed. Then we'll have a civil war again, and it's just going to start the cycle over and over and over. That's why the First Amendment was created with 5 different things in it, so we could change the government, hopefully without violence. And that's where CH is coming in. He wants the government to have less police and less overreach. They shouldn't be able to go into our pocket for taxes. They should be able to create their own money, 1776 was when the government was invented. 1775 was when they invented the United States Postal Service. And they wanted the Postal Service to be able to run itself and support itself. And that's what they do. They run themselves. They support themselves with their own money most of the time. And it's its own. And it's
they go
its
into
own
debt
business.
every year.
What was that?
They go into debt every year, the Postal Service does.
They are now. Back when they first started, they were pretty much the only one in the business. Now that there's other people, anything can work at first. It's just over generations, it gets distorted, just like the way language evolves. Ain't a word. Well, 20 years ago, ain't wasn't a word. Now it's in the dictionary, so it is a word. Our whole society has to constantly evolve to fit the new kids that start ruling it,
Yeah. Yeah, smoking gunner, and I agree with a lot of that stuff. So, like, first of all, I want to say ain't a word, and I ain't going to say it. And then another thing that I'm going to say is that I love that every time we get you on a StreamYard, you are on a completely different venue. I appreciate that as well. But another thing is that the nature of politics is that it grows. You see, a good entrepreneur in the private sector always figures out how to serve more people in order to grow his business. A good politician in the public sector will always find out how to rob more people so that they can expand government. It's just the nature. And trust me, bad politicians don't get into office. It's always good politicians. So the good ones, the ones that actually do what is beneficial to them, always expand government. They always expand government programs. They expand police powers. They expand everything to do with government, and therefore the nature of government is to overreach. You know, you're right. It was formed with an idea, and the idea is so it's molested now. If George Washington or Thomas Jefferson looked at this union now, they'd probably have a heart attack and die, because this is they would say, if they saw this union now, they'd say, God, please take us back to the days of King George, because we have got it terrible right now. And we
He's
went
starting
to
to
war
sound
over
like
Western.
he's starting to sound like a Wisp Boy talking about King George. Wisp Boy, are you familiar with the fake Mike Real News?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm not.
I know
I'm
Will.
not familiar.
yeah,
I don't know him
he's,
personally, but I know his channel.
yeah, conspiracy theorist, one of the craziest.
Okay,
Anyway,
looks like
You want to talk
Nick
about
has a
conspiracy
comment.
theories? Look at UFOs that are now UAVs, and then it's taken the government 75 years to finally admit that, yeah, there's things flying around out there that we don't understand or know about. You know, they're
yeah.
finally.
I mean, I
letting
don't
the
think
truth
this
out.
is the stream to debate UFOs right now.
No,
but,
no.
Yeah, but
We're here to try to awaken people's minds about how overreaching the government is. Small government works, big government doesn't. And it's simple as that. You can't have full-blown anarchy, because anarchy turns into a government eventually. You know, you have 1,000 people running around doing whatever. Well, 20 or 30 of them are going to group together because they believe in one thing.
become the
And
hierarchy.
eventually that's going to grow into about 30% of the population of the 1,000 people, and a government will be formed.
All right,
And then
well,
the rest of the
smoking auditor,
population-
that's all the time we have here. I'm giving 5 minutes to everybody, so
Cool.
we have to move
Thank you
on.
for
But
letting me
thank
get my
you
word
for
in.
supporting this.
Please,
Yeah, thanks for
Jay,
coming
good
on,
luck.
man. Yeah, thanks,
you.
brother.
All right, let me just read this super chat real quick from Chris. CH exists in the 1970s wood panel reality.
Hey, if we're not going to king shame, let's not home decor shame.
All right, we have Paul Carroll here. How's it going, Paul?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're all good. We're all good.
So
I'm
at
good.
one point I wound up on a panel with James Freeman, and it took a minute for me to actually say it, but I'll just go out of the gate with it. I do work as a prosecutor in Ohio, so I am as statist gets for some of these people. So
Goodness me.
That's
yeah.
awesome to have a prosecutor on the panel.
So
It's dreadful. I don't associate with terrorists.
Oh, boy.
I take issue with the definition, or with the label, I should say, of terrorist, but to each their own opinion, I guess. My first question is, if you think the Constitution is tyrannical, why do you claim the protections of the First Amendment when you're conducting your audits?
Because they've set out these rules for us to follow, right? The state wants us to follow all of these laws. They want us to, abide, and if we get in trouble, well, you just should have obeyed. But the thing is at the founding of the country, the founding fathers laid out 10 amendments, which state what the government shall not do. And in the 10th one, it clarifies that everything the federal government has the power to do is included in the Constitution. So they don't. The reason I quoted is to prove that the government doesn't follow the rules that they themselves agreed to play by, and then they come around and they punish us for not abiding by their rules. That's the reason I claim it.
But if you are an anarchist, why do you exemplify the country that the founding fathers created? Because that too is a form of government that is inherently, I'm sure in your opinion, more tyrannical than anarchy would be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you mean by exemplify. Do you mean that I'm advocating
you're saying
for it?
that in comparison to the country at the founding, the country as it is today is worse.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the country at the founding also be terrible in relation to anarchy because it still has a federal government and individual state?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Whiskey Rebellion, all that stuff was terrible. The only thing is that it's better in comparison to today. My whole thing is if you can get people to realize that a smaller government is beneficial, you can start moving them in the right direction. Well, okay, if say 5 government units are worse than 4 government units, surely 0 government units is the best of all. That's the kind of logic I'm trying to push on people. So, and it's their choice whether to believe it or not, but the whole idea is that it was better than it is today. That's for damn sure. But it compared to what it could be, it was not. And anarchy isn't perfect. I just think it's the best of the available systems.
But you mentioned in this stream that you thought that under an anarchic system, humans could prosper. Do you think that the absence of government could allow a population as large as the 7 billion, however many people are on Earth today?
Prosper? Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't
you think 7 billion people could inhabit the Earth with no government involved?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be madness. It would be madness.
It would be absolute madness.
Like I said before, luckily
it's madness today. Guys, it's madness today. In China, there are people getting disappeared. In America, people are getting caged or they're getting arrested. I just saw in my chat that it's actually 70% of people that are arrested for victimless crimes. This is insanity. There are people who are going around, they're not hurting a soul, and they're getting punished for it. This
for
is
what
craziness.
Crimes? For what specific crimes? Like, do you find...
Guys, I don't care what they're dealing. As long as it's a consenting adult on the other end of it, who the hell cares? It's not my decision what's best for that adult.
Okay, so you mentioned that the 10th Amendment specifies that the federal government is only allowed to do what is listed in the Constitution, but the Constitution also grants Congress the ability to draft laws, and it does not specify that Congress can only draft laws that are ones involving victims. So Congress
but it says that everybody's got the right to be secure in their persons, properties, and effects free from search and seizure.
From unreasonable search and seizure.
Okay, right. So you're a prosecutor, so is it reasonable to just come and seize my property because you don't like it?
Well, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, sure it does. The government doesn't like weed, they don't like drugs, so if I've got it, if that's in my possession, if that's my property, anytime they see it, they'll come seize it.
Well, if it's against the law, that would make it...
Yeah, but no. The Constitution says that I've got the right to be secure in that property.
Against unreasonable searches and seizures. So if
so who made it reasonable? Because
illegal,
so what? Do they say it
becomes
becomes reasonable when the government doesn't like that property? They say that you can't have your right to bear arms infringed on. Do you think that they meant for your right to have beer infringed on, or your right to have alcohol infringed on? This is all asinine.
I genuinely forget the amendment number, but we did outlaw alcohol, and then we abolished that amendment as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, but look, that should have never, they passed that amendment, but the whole thing is that it totally conflicts with the first 10 in the Bill of Rights. So, in my opinion, if they want to pass an amendment that conflicts with another amendment, why not just abolish that amendment and the other amendment in the first place?
Well, that would be up to the legislature.
I guess so, because everything's up to the legislature. Because if the legislature tells you that somebody's a bad person and they deserve to go to jail for doing something that doesn't hurt anybody, you see to it that you try to get them the worst sentence ever. In my eyes, you're an absolute scumbag, you're a terrorist, and honestly, I don't want any other prosecutors on this stream unless they're talking about how can they improve. But right now, you're just trying to justify doing what you do, and I can't imagine how many people you've sent to jail for not hurting anybody.
Let me clarify this. Paul, you're welcome on our stream at any time. You're always going to be welcome. I think it's good to have a prosecutor there that can, if there's questions about the law, then you're there. You know what you're talking about. So you are welcome on our stream at any time. But any closing remarks before we move on to the next person?
I think it seems pretty apparent that a lot of auditors and sovereign citizens love to cherry pick the rules that they like to follow and the protections especially that they like to claim and ignore the ones that they don't like.
Oh yeah, we've been saying that for a long time.
And prosecutors like to ignore those constitutional protections that they don't like either.
All right. Well, I guess we can
all right. Now we can move on. Let's get this guy out of here. I mean, yeah, come back to the stream anytime I'm not here.
Frauditor Troll, can I ask a quick follow-up question to that? Because I think Mr. Carroll said initially what I was trying to say with much more eloquence, which is probably why he's a prosecutor and, I shout at the gods. But you mentioned something that you kind of refined your point, that you're now saying that you would be acceptable with a smaller government. And forgive me if I misunderstood your initial claim, which was that we should.
I didn't say that. I just said it would be preferable to the government that we have now.
Well, it would be preferable. Okay. Well, my point is, could that perhaps be a compromise, or at least a conceit that there are some things which still need to be regulated, and perhaps that's what we do need a government for, which is very much in the flavor of our forefathers. But I totally agree. And this one, Mr. Carroll can agree with me. I do get your point too. That there have been plenty of examples where government has overstepped its reach, and may have, and in fact has even been shot down by courts that they have violated some of our civil liberties. But there's got to be, you can't have one extreme or the other, which is what I was trying to say. So I just wanted to make that point. So you're still an anarchist, right?
Craig has never said he's not an anarchist. He's with it all the way. The Purge, make it a permanent thing.
No, don't get me wrong. Anarchists to me are the 5-year-olds who get to that stage in life where they say, "You can't tell me what to do" to their parents.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like that.
Actually, I probably listen to my parents more than you listen to yours, buddy.
How would you know that?
My father was also a lawyer, so
citation.
I followed in his footsteps, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
well,
that's fine, man.
Yeah, Paul, thanks so much for being here. And Paul, we're going to be doing interviews, weekly interviews with frauditors, and you are always welcome. So you will always be welcome on the show.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with a channel called First Amendment Rights?
Me?
No, I'm asking Paul.
Oh, sorry. I don't think so.
Yeah, they might be coming on next week, so that's going to be interesting. Maybe I still have to set it up. So thank you so much for being here, Paul. We're going to move on to, we're going to skip Broken System. We're just going to pass right by you, and we're going to go to Ryan Youngblood. But thank you so much, G Fields, for the $2 donation. Thank you for the support. We are sinful by nature, not good. There's a lot of sinful people. There's a lot. If your purge state or country would happen, it would be disgusting, and I really hope it never does happen. It won't happen, but hopefully it doesn't. Ryan Youngblood, welcome.
I've never been in the presence of a mind or a future teller, but hopefully I will one. Hopefully we can meet one day, man.
Really I'm not a future teller. It's just logic that if there's no rules, there's no.
No, you've made no logical argument. You're just saying stuff about it. You think it would be.
I got to give a shout out to Ryan's avatar. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is super cool, Ryan. That I really like that. What is it? What are the letters like? What do the words say on the bottom of it? I can't read it. Stay on target. Cool.
That's episode 4, Star Wars.
Cool. So you have questions for Craig?
My question is real simple. Who builds the roads? This seems to be the question that comes back to private and public. So without a government, who pays for that?
Well, in reality, we're kind of blessed, right? Because if we went back to my system, people would just buy the roads that already exist and then improve or maintain them. But even there are private roads nowadays. I mean, there's turnpikes all over the country. You pay to use them. The people that use them pay for them, right? They pay as they use them.
So would you equate that to the railroad barons? Like they built those for their own good and then started to let others use them? You think that would be similar to the roads?
I mean, I don't know if they built them for their own good.
Well, I thought they built them to make money.
Yeah, but how are they going to make money unless they let other people use them, man? I mean, they're not going to make money by rails sitting there on the ground doing nothing.
No, I guess what I would assume would be that they would build them, use them for their own, transit, getting their products back and forth, get paid for that, and then other people could pay them to use those tracks as well. would you associate that to the use of roads after we were done with the horse and buggy?
I mean, I don't. If you're giving yourself an example of how it might possibly happen, then yeah, sure, man. That is certainly a possibility. Yeah.
Do you think that's feasible to maintain them over hundreds of years?
Yeah.
Do you think we could do that without government?
Before the government got involved in railroad regulations and all that stuff, railroads were doing just fine. They were the biggest corporations in the world.
So let's fast forward to today. We have all these roads. Let's pretend they were built by private companies to accommodate them for their commerce, and they allow us to use them. Are they required then, without government, are they required to maintain those and keep them up?
Well, if they didn't, I certainly wouldn't be taking my car on them. But I mean, I think you're kind of being pretentious. I think that assuming that a corporation that is already like, I don't know, like a food joint or a superstore, that they would buy them, might just be a road owner, right? And they charge per use and they maintain the road and they just do that as a full-time, that's their job.
Well, fact check.
So would you
railroads, the railroad tracks, many of them are currently owned by private companies, Norfolk Southern, Santa Fe, so.
Yeah, but the government tells them how they got to run their business. Thanks, Nick.
The government tells them that they got to run Amtrak.
So
the government tells them how to run their business, right? Thank you for agreeing. But let's get back to Ryan. He was the guy who had.
No, that's not true.
So
okay, all right.
Nick, take your turn. Nick, you've talked a lot, buddy. Hold on. Okay. Let me have my 5 minutes. So, Craig, what I'm saying is, I guess, if they had to maintain those, let's say Walmart paid for hundreds of thousands of miles of road. Now they're paying for that to keep them going. Would you assume that they would probably put a toll system in place to recoup their losses?
Yeah, I would assume so. Unless they could find a way to have their roads available and then outlaw, like basically just not allow other companies to build their stores on the road. Enough. If they maybe found that more profitable, maybe they do it like that. But the free market works in various different ways, man. So
then my next question would be, how would they enforce, for lack of a better word, how would they enforce that, things get done the way that they, how would they enforce the tolls? How would they enforce other people not using it? Stuff like that.
Private security, private police.
Okay. So you do see that could work from coast to coast without government being involved?
Of course.
Without all of us pitching into a central, leader or
absolutely.
Regulator?
Absolutely. Yeah, it would work better. The economic thing is what I'm saying would work better. Now, I admit there would be problems, right? People would die, people would get stolen from, but the economics of our world would be a hell of a lot better. Yeah.
Well, and that leads me to the other question, too, would be, that private security for that company, they have the money to do that. How do you see personal security being, if I tried to cross the country and I didn't have state troopers or whatever lining the highways all the way over to California from Maine, I would just be kind of on my own if I couldn't travel with a band of other people to protect each other. How would you? I know you're saying that we're not responsible for everyone else's security, but living in,
I'm just kind of confused. You're saying you want state police on the roads?
No, I'm saying, is there a better way to go about keeping us secure from Maine all the way to California on these roads that we pay tolls to the Walmart? Of
course there's a better way. Look, the private security, not only would they not be incentivized to do nothing but steal your money, because they would get paid based on customer service, but they wouldn't, they would keep you safe, and they'd be way more incentivized. I mean, if I heard that one property owner's road was more likely to get me killed than another property owner's road, I would go on that road. That road would get more business, and then they could even hire even more security to keep people safe while traveling.
Okay, that makes sense. So the tolls I pay would also include safe travel.
Of course, yeah. Yes, nothing's
like
for free, right?
Well, no, I do like that, and I think that's somewhat kind of how we hold the airlines to to get us somewhere safely and not crash. I guess that would be that's not government owned, but that's government regulated, I suppose.
Right, and they'd be incentivized just the same. I mean, if I heard that people were dying on a certain airline company's planes, I would avoid it like the plague when I'm flying.
So then back to what you guys were talking about as far as the food company making something that poisons people. government regulation, I don't know if that would actually work or help, because I mean, we get that now. We get salmonella breakouts. We get, all these things happening. There's no real way that government protects us from that, right?
Right. As a matter of fact, there have been, I believe, I don't know the actual numbers, but something like thousands of people have died because the FDA's negligence to approve certain drugs from other countries that had life-saving functions in them. I mean, the FDA and all that, it doesn't protect us at all. It actually is. It sometimes kind of restricts our access to life-saving, drugs. So, and as far as the food goes, if we heard that, it's the same. Like, it gets out to us through the news, through Google. If there are bad, food items, we know not to buy them because it's just disseminated by the news media and by social media.
Well, that's true. That's true. And my last question, then I'll leave it to you guys, unless you want me to keep talking. Do you feel that there is anyone in this world that has a higher claim over your life than you do?
Absolutely not.
Nick?
Over me?
Yeah. Do I have a higher claim over your life than you do?
I should hope not.
Well, but should I be allowed to ask someone else to have a higher claim over your life than you do?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Should I be allowed to ask someone else to rule over you if I feel that you are not living the way I think you should live?
I would say no.
Okay, I agree. So you're kind of an anarchist, I would say.
Yeah, in some ways.
Okay. Frauditor, same question.
Yeah, I'm not too sure I understand. Yeah, you should be allowed to live your own life and nobody should have power over yours. But
so you don't think that if I disagree with your way of life, I should be able to hire someone else to force you to live the way I want you to?
The thing is that if you live in a country, you have to go by the rules. So if you're saying that the government should be allowed to lock you up, I don't know. I'm trying to understand where you're getting to be honest.
Well, I would say the easiest way to make my point would be slaves don't have rights. They are ruled over indefinitely. So if you're saying that we can make a law, if I write it down on paper and say, okay, these people don't deserve to make their own decisions, do you think that that's okay for us to rule others by just writing it down on a piece of paper and saying, okay, it's law now?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Even if it's democratically elected, like even if we elect people who all vote for it and say, yes, let's bring this back. No, that's one of the beauties of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, that we couldn't even do that to ourselves. I couldn't even choose to be a slave, even if I wanted to be.
Can I choose to enslave you?
What if the Supreme Court magically rules tomorrow that it's actually constitutional?
Well, I think that's a much more complicated question. I mean, the thing about the Bill of Rights, these are what our forefathers have defined as civil liberties. That's why topics such as gun control, free speech, I mean, they're entrenched.
They're missing the point, though, Nick. Wouldn't you agree? They're missing the point that's you're making it sound like it's a device to control people instead of to control government, aren't you?
Interesting.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I thought that instrument was created to control government, not control people.
The first 10 civil liberties, is that what you're speaking about?
The Federalist Papers, the Constitution, all of them.
Yeah, well, I think the Bill of Rights, as I understand it, it's been a while since I've studied this, but I mean, the gist of it is these define fundamental civil liberties that we have, and these are protections which we have from the government. For example, the government cannot restrict our free speech. The government cannot choose to, as frauditors love, put
unless it's threatening.
To put soldiers inside of my house, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's gone way off the scale since then. But in my I guess short life, I've always known it to be a restriction on government, not a restriction on its people.
That is true. In fact, I've seen frauditors make this mistake. I've seen even people who are not frauditors make this mistake. For example, can YouTube censor somebody? Absolutely. It's a private industry. Can Nordstrom's tell me what I can and cannot wear in their stores? Yeah, it's a private business. freedom of expression, freedom of speech only applies to the government. The government can't unreasonably surveil me, but hey, Facebook wants to. Sure.
All right, so yeah, thank you, Ryan Youngblood, for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan, it was great to have you on, man.
Ryan did say something interesting about the roads, because I mean, I think a lot of people in the chat have also been asking about this, the idea of infrastructure. I mean, it's very easy to get bogged down.
Okay, and after this question, Nick, I'm going to have to hop off here, but what do you got for me?
Well, my question is, like, just for the roads, you say, let's say we take the roads which are already built by the public, and companies can buy them up. For example, Walmart. Walmart can buy their private company and then just ship their goods down that road. Correct? Is that what you're
yeah, if it was profitable, sure.
Okay, and of course, if another company wanted to compete with Walmart, then they could do the same thing, right?
Right.
Or buy a different road, or perhaps offer services. Now, Mr. Youngblood did say, well, who's going to protect the rights of Walmart? So they would, of course, have to hire private security, right?
Yep.
So one of the things you said, you're a believer in capitalism, right?
That's what anarchy is.
How do you define capitalism? Like, what is it? You know, there are many different thoughts about capitalism. Are we saying totally
zero
hands
government
off,
restrictions on the marketplace?
survival of the fittest? Then, just I offer a product, let the free market decide.
Yeah. Yep.
So, suppose Walmart does buy all the interstates, right? And then they own all the roads. And let's say I come up with a better product than Walmart. I would never be able to buy all the interstates from them. Would that still be capitalism?
I mean, certainly they'd go out of business. So yeah, it would be capitalism.
No, we wouldn't even be able to start.
No, I'm saying Walmart would go out of business.
Why would they go out of business? They own all the roads. I can't transform my goods. Walmart can.
So, I mean, like, does Walmart let people use the roads if they pay, or is nobody allowed to use the roads but Walmart?
Well, remember, I mean, here's a statistic which they always say during elections. Small business is what runs this country.
No, I just want to know: are people allowed to drive on the roads, or do they have to pay for them, or are they not allowed at all?
It's their road. Walmart gets to charge. They can charge.
Walmart charges them.
Yeah, to use their roads.
Okay, all right then.
So
why would another business not be able to?
Because that's capitalism, and the way capitalism works is a free market. Tell you what, I can offer a product better than you can at a cheaper cost. Which, and just like you said, I can offer it safer than you can. So let's say Walmart has a lot of lead in their toys, but I'm going to create a toy company, and it's not going to have any lead, and then, let the free market. So now everybody wants my toys. How am I going to ship them?
Okay.
How am I going to ship them?
Probably use Walmart.
Why would Walmart allow me to use their roads?
Because they don't they create only a few things. If they're going to take a cut of your toys, they're going to.
But now they create everything. They became this one giant corporation.
Right, exactly. So it's a fantasy world, right?
No, it's not a fantasy world. I mean, this actually exists.
Yeah, because that's never happened before. The free market doesn't allow for monopolies. That's something that doesn't happen.
Are you aware of what antitrust laws are?
Yeah, and they've never worked. They've never ever shut anything down that was going to be a monopoly.
They have. So first of all,
like what? Like what?
Okay, let's say.
Like
how about
what?
I don't? Like
one example of what antitrust laws have done for this nation.
How about I don't use the roads? I find another way to ship them. Right? So let's say I ship them using airplanes.
Okay.
Right? Now, you did say, of course, if I wanted to communicate myself, I'd, do this. Now, remember, air travel is also infrastructure, right? It does actually kind of require roads. Are you aware of that?
Well, yeah, I don't expect airplanes to land on mountains.
No, I'm not talking about lands. I'm talking about the routes they could take from San Francisco to L.A. Are you aware of that?
I don't live in California, no, so I'm not aware. But
you live in Indiana.
Like the whole idea, though, of Walmart buying all the roads is like, what happens to Amazon? What happens to Kohl's? What happens to what happens to all these other places? Do they not exist in this fantasy world that you're talking about? It's never going to happen, dude. Capitalism doesn't allow for monopolies. The only meaningful definition of monopoly is a government-backed company that the government will not allow anybody else to provide that same service or product. That's what a monopoly is.
Well,
it's never existed in the free market. When the antitrust laws were used to break up Standard Oil had 60% market share. versus their 80% market share that they had, but like decades before. And it's happened in every situation in history. The government has never stopped a monopoly from happening. The government has only formed monopolies.
No,
They've got a monopoly on postal
I agree with
services.
you. I
They've got a
agree with
monopoly.
I agree.
Okay, well then that's it, man. It's never going to happen.
It's not,
if you know how the free market works, it's never going to happen.
I agree. But one of the way the free markets work is I could provide a service better. So Walmart bought all the roads up, right? But
no, they didn't. No, they didn't, because then Amazon would be out of business, and Amazon's got way more capital than Walmart.
Then let's
right?
say
So Amazon buys all the roads.
Well,
no, because Walmart's there. No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Listen.
I'll buy my own road. God damn it. I'm going to buy my road.
I'm not going to buy any roads.
Well, that's fine. You're not using my road, buddy.
I'm going to fly my products to Indiana, right?
Okay, you fly your products,
Who's
man.
gonna
If it's
regulate
profitable
that?
for you, you'll stay in business.
Are you aware that there's specific airways which have been defined by the government, which you take from Los Angeles to Indianapolis, and those airways exist because we can't have planes running into each other. So who's going to regulate that? How do you protect those airways?
All I know is, dude, there are a lot more cars than airplanes.
Navigation?
There's a lot more road space than there is there's a lot less road space than there is airspace. So I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with airplanes crashing into each other.
Okay. I'm not even. I'm not going to dignify that with a response. But what about GPS?
Okay, man. Well, that's fine. I got to get going,
GPS?
man. So
what about GPS?
Yeah, 1 second, guys. So if you have to go, Craig, thank you so much for coming. And
thanks for having me, man. It was a great talk. I mean, I don't think we made progress, but I think that we at least gave some people some things to think about on both sides.
Yeah, so if you would like to come back at a later time and further debate Nick, I could gladly host it if you're interested.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
The problem is you need to understand economic theory. You need to understand the difference, what regulation exists. But if
I understand economic theory. I think we don't understand the same one. I'm of the Austrian school of economics. I think you're of the Keynesian school. So there's a difference in philosophy there.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to give a lot of
the
fuel
differences
for
between those two economic schools of thought.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine, man. I'll do that. All right, guys, have a good day.
All
right,
right. Fuel for the next debate. So let me
Absolutely.
know when. All right, thank you, Craig, for hopping on.
Yep, have a good one, guys.
The new Hide Behind the Badge shirt is available now on Spring. Be sure to check it out and get yours. Link is in the description below. Also, consider joining our channel as a member to get access to content early and in some cases completely exclusive content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.